It's the end of 2016, and we are at the end of a very memorable year. Unfortunately, a lot of the things that happened in the past 12 months were not exactly great.
Like the Brexit, and the US election, and the loss of many music icons, and Hurricane Matthew, and the Orlando Pulse shooting, and the continuing water crisis in Flint, Michigan, and the Dakota Access Pipeline. Wow, 2016 was rough.
However, just because 2016 was one long, awful movie, we still had an amazing soundtrack in the rock, alternative, and metal world. So with that being said, these are my top 10 favorite albums of 2016. This video is my top 10 favorite albums, no one else's. Just because your favorite album didn't make my list doesn't mean I hated it. Probably just means I didn't get a chance to hear it. Or I might have liked it, and I just like these a little bit more. Or you liked the new Simple Plan album that came out this year, and I never will, and we probably will never agree on anything ever. You know how top 10 videos work, there's no further need for explanation, so let's get started. Here are my top 10 for 2016.
Number 10. We start off a list with a band who continues to deliver time and time again for now well over a decade. Spearheaded by the instant selling point of a track in Show Me a Leader, Alter Bridge delivered another album that proved two things. One, Mark Tremonti is one of the best guitarists in rock today. And two, Alter Bridge deserved to be held in much higher regard and featured in higher ranking at music festivals.
You know, instead of giving those slots to Five Finger Death Punch year after year, just to hear Ivan Moody stop every show to address TMZ rumors. Rock and roll.
The Last Hero is over an hour of solid writing, great rhythm, and previously mentioned guitar work, and Miles Kennedy sounds like he is at the top of his game. You really hear in his delivery that he gives it his all and doesn't hold back, and at the same time get the impression that he's having the time of his life in making music like this. If you haven't listened to anything from Alter Bridge in a while, you owe it to yourself to at least listen to the song Show Me a Leader. If that's up your alley, then there's a good chance you will really like the album. Number 9. I don't hide that I'm a huge Deftones fan, and every time the band releases a new album, I always get excited. Originally with Gore, however, I wasn't thrilled, mainly because I didn't love the lead single Prayers Triangles. It wasn't until after I heard the entire album and had several listens that this album really started growing on me. It's not the typical Deftones from the past that had a mix of heavy and rhythmic or mellow. Gore is definitely one of the more melodic-paced albums, and arguably the least heavy album Deftones have done in quite some time. This is an album that you really need to sit down and take in, as opposed to the past Deftones albums like White Pony that you scream along with. Listen to the songs Hearts, Wires, and Phantom Bride to get an idea if you are into the overall flow, as those songs are the highlights and also good indicators of pace for Gore. Deftones are that rare band that put out something worth checking out at least a little in every album. There isn't really any full LP that's worth completely trashing, and while Gore isn't my favorite Deftones album ever, it still is definitely something I came back to consistently throughout the year and stands out as a strong thematic entry in Deftones' long career.
The Deftones have been around since the late 80s, and since 1995 with their debut album, they have very rarely ever made anything that was completely unlistenable. I mean, yeah, they made the song Pink Cell Phone, but, you know, one song out of an entire discography? That's amazing! Oh, I'm thinking about Pink Cell Phone now. Ew.
Number 8. This year I missed out on a lot of the alternative side of music just to be engrossed in so many other things, and one of the albums I missed at release date was 100 by England's Nahanni. I had heard the big single You and Me, and I really liked it, but I didn't check out the album until almost 2 months later. It was the song You and Me, like I said, that caught my attention, but hearing the opening tracks Bonfire, now also getting airplay, and my favorite song on 100, We Could Be, which is the song playing in the background here, This album got a lot of repeat play for me. In an endless sea of alternative bands today, the Nahanni truly feels like they have the energy and writing style to make you feel like you are listening to more than just a summer driving soundtrack. The band has a good vibe in their music and a great guitarist that helps push the sound to the next level. Check out the opening 2 songs, Bonfire and We Could Be, and see if this is up your alley. Even for me as someone who isn't crazy about the current indie and alternative scene, the Nahanni really hooked me with what they created.
I stand by that. I feel like I missed out this past August, and I wish I could have shown this to everyone else when it happened, and I'm still playing catch up, but at the same time, I really like this album, and I really think the Nahanni are a band to follow. So, if you're into that upbeat alternative style, you really need to check out 100. So, instead of 100 in their lighter upbeat style, let's go to something completely heavier on the number 7 slot.
Number 7. 2016 has been a very good year for thrash, and especially for the big names from the 80s who really headed the style, including releases from Anthrax, Testament, and the long-awaited new album from Metallica. But of those big names from the past that released something this year, it's Megadeth who had my favorite in Dystopia. For the past few years, Megadeth albums haven't really connected with me, and I felt the better days were left remembered fondly instead of hoping for something new that'll surprise me. Then Dystopia came and slapped me right in the face. With the addition of Kiko and Dirk joining Mustaine and Ellefson, the new combination has a life of its own. The title track was what got me interested in checking out Megadeth again in 2016, but songs like The Emperor and The Threat Is Real are what sold the album for me. There are some impressive solos and sequences from everyone in the band on Dystopia. If you would have told me last year that Megadeth would have come roaring back with something this strong, I wouldn't have believed it. But I would be dead wrong.
Dystopia rekindled my love for Megadeth, and even though the lyrics are a shade of the best of Fox News, the music is still really worth listening to, and Dystopia is definitely worth checking out. Nothing against Fox News, by the way. Actually, Fox News is awful. They're responsible for falsifying documents and news reports just to sway their own opinion and make people hate one side or the other, and are kind of responsible for so much discord in the United States. Yeah, they're just awful. Don't watch Fox News. Ever.
Number 6. As for more metal on my list came a bit of surprise, not in how I wasn't expecting something good from Periphery, but how I wasn't expecting Select Difficulty to be released so quickly after their double album Juggernaut, which was released just under a year and a half earlier. When do the men in this band sleep? Select Difficulty, however, is the continued expression of just how talented these men are at writing progressive metal tracks with crazy speed changes and minute-long bridges that will make you feel like you are hearing 2 different bands. The opening track, The Price Is Wrong, is nominated for a Grammy in Best Metal Performance against Megadeth's Dystopia, which we just heard on the number 7 slot. The Price Is Wrong, however, is not the track that should sell you on this album. Tracks like Flatline and Loon are what make Select Difficulty worth owning. I can't even begin to tell you how many times I listened to these songs this past summer. If you've never listened to this band at all, then this album is just as good as any to jump on board with. In fact, it might be a better choice because that'll help you appreciate some of the other earlier progressive stuff from past years, including the previously mentioned double album from 2015.
Prog metal can be a hard sell for a lot of people, even metal fans, but it really does show the amount of hard work and dedication goes into writing a story and progressing in the music from beginning to end in a long album. And Periphery did it again. They have earned their ever-growing fan base, and they have a lot of great things coming for them in the future. So definitely check out Select Difficulty and the songs I just suggested. Also, they are very big gamers, which is a huge draw for a lot of people. Especially Misha. Adorable Misha.
Number 5. As for another album I missed on release day from a new band, Iceland's Kaleo have some of the most natural talent and deep-hitting soul-filled rock that I've heard in a while. I was introduced to this band when they opened up at Shaky Knees Music Festival with the song I Can't Go On Without You in Atlanta, and they blew me away. AB is part tribute to classic 60s, 70s rock and part deep soul-filled rock sounding like it's straight out of Memphis, while ironically coming from Icelanders. The album is highlighted by some smooth guitars and some amazing deep vocals from His name is JJ, and his delivery is something that the current rock scene hears very little of in the current day. The big song that is still getting radio play is Way Down We Go, which is a slow but heavy sounding track. The more energetic and rock style No Good is now also getting attention, and both of these songs are the best examples of just how good Kaleo is. It's crazy because I was asked if I wanted to interview this band in Atlanta during the festival, and I literally had no time to do it. And now I'm kicking myself because of that, and because I didn't catch this one when it came out. But this is another bandwagon worth jumping onto.
I never would have guessed that some of the best Southern soul-style rock would come from a group from Iceland who played in a volcano, but there you go. Now, if we can just get Kaleo to come out of the volcano and stay in the United States, and we'll just send one of our lesser musicians and put them in a volcano, and everyone wins. Here's a suggestion for who should dump in the volcano first.
Number 4. Vector was a band I had never heard about until a couple of months ago thanks to a Patreon request. If 2016 was a year of revisiting thrash metal bands from the past, then Vector had something to say about younger guys still trying to kick the door down. The band's third album, Terminal Redux, is a mind-blowing prog thrash mammoth. As I listened to Terminal Redux, the more I became impressed with just how aggressive Vector was with creating something both engaging and vicious. The guitar work on the album is solid throughout, and I've gained an appreciation with just how relentless the drumming is, as Blake Anderson must have gotten a serious workout when recording this album and making such a strong presence from the back. The vocals are going to be what make or break this album for you. It's a unique, higher-pitched, raspy sound that carries the story and adds the flair to Vector. I totally understand that sound is not everyone's dynamic when it comes to metal, especially thrash, but for me, it's David DeSanto's vocals that make this album and experience that much more memorable. If you are big into thrash and progressive metal but looking for something a little different, then you should check out Terminal Redux. It flew under my radar when it was released, but I'm glad it was pointed out so that I could hear it. You undeniably won't be able to finish it all in one sitting, however, as there is so much thrown at you that your brain will go into overload, but it's definitely worth hearing.
Seriously, about halfway through listening to Terminal Redux, my eyes were bulging out of the sockets, trying to comprehend everything that I just heard. But that's not a bad thing. It's still fantastic, and I recommend anyone, especially fans of thrash, to check it out. It's just not going to be for everyone, understandably. So don't play this album for your mother, and expect her to nod along lightly to the rhythm.
Number 3. 20 years after the release of Book of Shadows, Zakk Wylde brought the follow-up with Book of Shadows 2. And while many people may have been expecting slaughtering metal from the master guitarist, this album is actually a true follow-up and a slow rhythm masterpiece that includes a lot of acoustics. After listening to this album in entirety, I found a new appreciation for Zakk Wylde and his music writing ability to go along with my admiration for him as a guitar player. Book of Shadows 2 has track after track of gorgeous music that just about anyone can enjoy, even if they're not a rock fan. Most rock fans may have heard the track Sleeping Dogs featuring Corey Taylor, which is fantastic, but there are many other songs worth hearing that are just as high in quality and worth replaying. Some of my favorites like Tears of December and Darkest Hour are the quintessential relaxing, calm down songs that you have been missing in your life. If you're looking for something a little slower and more laid back but still extremely impressive and somehow elegant with the guitar work and southern folk style vocals, then you need Book of Shadows 2. This goes for fans of rock, metal, alternative, and any other genre of music as well.
On a side note, after making this top 10 list and writing it out, I had the chance to meet Zakk Wylde, which I wasn't expecting, at the Revolver Music Awards. He had this to say.
So, like some of the things going on right now, what are you looking forward to for the rest of this year? Just overall in general.
I want to continue with my massive intake of female growth hormone.
Your figure looks fantastic because of it. I mean,
thank you
dang.
very much.
That may seem out of context for everything I just said, but I assure you, it was presented the exact same way to me that I presented it to you. Out of nowhere, unexpected, and kind of taking me back. So yeah, Book of Shadows 2, check it out.
Number 2. The The final two albums were definitely my most replayed of 2016, and the first of these came from Australia's Hands Like Houses. The post-hardcore sound has become less and less unique as time has gone on. In my opinion, the bands involved have watered it down slightly, but Hands Like Houses blew me away with their sound and dissonance and hooked me into following another band. I had heard Hands Like Houses before and thought they were fine, but it was this album that came out in the beginning of 2016 that made me a believer. The song I Am still gets played constantly in my car, and songs like Momentary and Bloodlines are huge favorites of mine. That, along with the track Colorblind, which got a decent amount of radio play, especially on Sirius XM, it makes me feel that most people who heard this album thoroughly enjoyed it. If you are curious of whether you would like this album and you have only heard the song Colorblind, then do yourself a favor and check out I Am and Momentary. This is the type of album you'll be happy to own and get excited every time a song comes on when you shuffle your music.
Dissonance is fantastic, and I can't recommend it enough. I've been telling people about it in the alternative side, the hard rock side. A lot of people can get something out of this album if they give it a chance. And also, I'd like to point out that there was a lot of good music that came out in the US, but also outside of the US as well. You have Hands Like Houses from Australia, The Hunter from the UK, Kaleo from Iceland, and the band who released the #1 album on my top 10 list.
Number 1.
Don't ever let anyone tell you that a clown can't make you happy.
I had been a fan of Avatar before this year when I heard Hail the Apocalypse, which was an album that really grew on me. When I heard that Feathers and Flesh, the band's 6th studio album, would be a concept album written as a fable including animals as the characters, I was definitely intrigued. What I was not ready for, however, was just how interwoven everything was. Story-wise, it's about an owl on a quest to stop the sun from rising, an impossible task he unfortunately comes to realize. Along the way, he meets many other animals and insects that either get in his path or are of no help. An entire illustrated 60-page book was made just to further explain the story. Then we get to the music. Oh my goodness, did Avatar amaze me. From the opening tracks, Regret and House of Eternal Hunt, I was completely immersed in blistering hooks and guitar solos, along with a pounding rhythm and the amazing screaming and singing of Johannes Eckerstrom. While it's definitely classified as metal, there are a lot of ballads and clean singing along with amazing rolling bass lines like in the song One More Hill, and amazing guitars like in the song New Land. There are 14 tracks with a lot to offer, and the end of the album, Sky Burial, leaves a finish to the story which makes it great to pick up from the beginning all over again.
On top of all that, online they give a bonus track of I've Got Something in My Front Pocket for You from South Park. It's the metal cover of it. Just when you think you couldn't get any more, Avatar gives you something you've been missing your whole life.
Of all the albums I listened to in 2016, this was by far my favorite. It became that way in May when it was released, and since then it became the standard of comparing how much I like other albums that were released for the rest of the year. It's a hard sell for people who aren't big metal fans, and even more so when you see the creepy clown, but I promise it's worth a listen. It's also definitely worth playing For the Swarm at least once at full volume, if for no other reason than to scare your neighbors.
There you have it, my top 10 favorite albums of 2016. Leave a comment on what your favorite album of the year was. Tell people what you think. Be polite about it, and you can share a lot of information. Tell people what you love. Something's gone now, and no one's really talking about music the way they used to. People used to make friends by telling people what bands they liked, what albums they listened to. And online really is a good place to do that. So share it with people what you like, what albums you love this year. You'd be surprised how much conversation can really come for that. That being said, next year, there's a lot to look forward to. Including next month, if Patreon pledges hold out, you'll have another Regretting the Past. And I'm not going to say which album it is, because I'll feel dirty. But if pledges do hold out, you'll be getting it in January, and you can check out my Patreon page here or in the YouTube card if you want to check out which one it is. And if you pledge just $1 a month, I promise it goes a long way. So, that being said, thanks for watching. Leave comments on what you liked, and follow Rocked. I promise there's always going to be more music coming out. What was your favorite rock and metal album of 2016?
They still make rock music? Huh. Well, I just assumed after the whole new metal rap rock hybrid thing, hip-hop just kind of consumed its essence and moved on.
No, it definitely did not. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment with what your favorite album was. Please subscribe and make sure to stay tuned because there's a lot of good stuff coming out this year. in the rock and metal world. Need to stop asking Channel Awesome people what their favorite album was.
Hey guys, thanks for watching and following Rocked for another year. If you haven't already, please subscribe. It helps me out a ton to get noticed, and leave a like and comment on this video to help it get shared so many people see there is good music out there. You can follow Rocked on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and click on the YouTube card or annotation to check out my latest Regretting the Past on the biggest pile of durst ever, that is Results May Vary.